Report: Climate crisis significantly increased likelihood of Los Angeles fires. An event like the Los Angeles fires is now likely to happen every 17 years, a World Weather Attribution report said. Did you know that Truthout is a nonprofit and independently funded by readers like you? If you value what we do, please support our work with a donation. A new report suggests that the global climate crisis played a significant role in increasing the likelihood of the recent wildfires that ravaged the Los Angeles area. The report from World Weather Attribution, a coalition of scientists who examine extreme weather events and disasters to understand the role that the climate crisis played in their intensity and likelihood, was published on Tuesday. The report noted that human-induced climate change is increasing wildfires in many regions of the world, as hot, dry, and windy weather conditions increase the risk of fires both starting and spreading. Before the Industrial Revolution, global average temperatures were 1.3 degrees Celsius lower than they are now. The increase means that the conditions that drove the LA fires are now expected to occur on average once in 17 years. The report said these conditions increased the likelihood of the Los Angeles wildfires by about 35%, the report said. The climate crisis was also responsible for a 6% increase in the severity of the fires compared to pre-industrial levels. The World Weather Attribution report further recognized that the elderly, people living with disability, especially limited mobility, lower-income people without personal vehicles, and population groups that received late warnings were disproportionately impacted, as they had a more difficult time getting to safety. This report comes the same week that lawmakers in California's state legislature introduced a bill that would require contributors to the climate crisis to pay for damages that result from wildfires in the state. Senate Bill 222 would allow individuals and insurance agencies to sue fossil fuel companies for damages that occur as a result of wildfires in California. The bill's author, State Senator Scott Wiener, D., explained that while California residents are paying for these disasters, there is one stakeholder that is not paying: the fossil fuel industry, which makes the product that is fueling the climate change. Wiener's proposal notes that the oil industry has known for decades that burning fossil fuels contributes to the climate crisis. It also states that wildfires, like those in Los Angeles this month, cost billions of dollars in damages, and that natural disasters in general are creating an insurance market crisis, with insurance companies increasing rates, limiting coverage for some people's property, or pulling out completely from regions where wildfires are more prone to occur. Californians are bearing these costs with explosive insurance premium increases that make CA less affordable. That has to change, Wiener said in a subsequent Blue Sky thread, adding that the bill would finally force the fossil fuel companies to be part of the solution, instead of dumping this burden on policyholders. It will help make people whole for their losses from climate disasters. And it will help improve insurance affordability, he added. In an article for Truthout last week, freelance writer Tyler Walasek suggested that such a bill in California could work the same way a recently enacted Superfund law in New York does. That law and Wiener's bill could also be replicated at the federal level. Wrote Walasek, the oil industry has long hewn to the classic formula of privatizing the profits and socializing the costs, continuing to amass obscene returns while knowing full well that the price is a livable planet. Climate Superfund legislation represents a robust means of rebalancing such warped excesses. We're not backing down in the face of Trump's threats. As Donald Trump is inaugurated a second time, independent media organizations are faced with urgent mandates: tell the truth more loudly than ever before. Do that work even as our standard modes of distribution, such as social media platforms, are being manipulated and curtailed by forces of fascist repression and ruthless capitalism. Do that work even as journalism and journalists face targeted attacks, including from the government itself. And do that work in community, never forgetting that we're not shouting into a faceless void. We're reaching out to real people amid a life-threatening political climate. Our task is formidable, and it requires us to ground ourselves in our principles, remind ourselves of our utility, dig in, and commit. As a dizzying number of corporate news organizations, either through need or greed, rush to implement new ways to further monetize their content, and others acquiesce to Trump's wishes, now is a time for movement media makers to double down on community-first models. At Truthout, We are reaffirming our commitments on this front. We won't run ads or have a paywall because we believe that everyone should have access to information, and that access should exist without barriers and free of distractions from craven corporate interests. We recognize the implications for democracy when information seekers click a link only to find the article trapped behind a paywall or buried on a page with dozens of invasive ads. The laws of capitalism dictate an unending increase in monetization, and much of the media simply follows those laws. Truthout and many of our peers are dedicating ourselves to following other paths, a commitment which feels vital in a moment when corporations are ever more overtly embedded in government. Over 80% of Truthout's funding comes from small individual donations from our community of readers, and the remaining 20% comes from a handful of social justice-oriented foundations. Over a third of our total budget is supported by recurring monthly donors, many of whom give because they want to help us keep Truthout barrier-free for everyone. You can help by giving today. Whether you can make a small monthly donation or a larger gift, Truthout only works with your support.